what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of CMSgt Nation. I have another exciting topic to talk about today. I have to admit, the topic is a tough one, so I had to give it to a tough leader. This one is actually called Big Fish, Little Pond, and I know for a fact that when I asked this individual to talk about this topic, I imagine on the other end of the phone was a lot of head scratching, like, people have been on the podcast talking about leadership and all kinds of cool stuff. And I get Big Fish, Little Pond, he's probably like, is this like a one fish, two fish, Dr. Seuss book? Or, I used to play this computer game called Feeding Frenzy on my phone. And you started off as a little fish and you just ate more fish and you became a bigger fish, so on and so forth. So in his mind, he was probably like, I want to come on, but I don't know if I want to talk about this topic. But I know that he is perfect to talk about this topic. Number one, he is a Chief Master Sergeant, E9, for those that aren't affiliated with the military. He's an E9 Chief Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, which means he had to traverse a lot of things. He has had to climb the ladder to get to where he is today. And I would imagine he had at some point was a big fish in a little pond, a little fish in a big pond, so on and so forth. So I felt that Chief Master Sergeant Rickey Walks is the perfect person to come onto the show to help me unpack and dissect and just dissect this topic and just really dive into it. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Chief Master Sergeant Rickey Walks.
Hey, Shooter, I appreciate you, brother. It's an honor to be on your podcast, man. It's an honor to talk this topic with you. Yeah, absolutely. It's not in my comfort zone, but I've studied this thing for the past several weeks when you gave me the topic just to kind of put my perspective on it and try to hopefully inspire somebody to understand, like, this is just stages of life that you go through, whether it's your career, your life, your personal life. It's just a stage when you talk about this topic. But I'm looking forward to the conversation, brother.
Absolutely. And you just hit on something that we're going to dive into a little bit. You're right. It's not just about your military career. It could be your personal life. I think there's all facets of life that this can have an impact on. So before we dive into it, I know I kind of did a little bit of an introduction or whatnot. I'm wearing my Qatar shirt because that's where you and I met. We met in Doha, Qatar, and I saw you doing your thing. And I think since then, each of us has added an extra rank. And then just lo and behold, I happened to go to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. And, I see you in the gym and you're there too. So I think that it's been awesome for me to just kind of follow you from afar and watch you, climb the ladder of success. So can you just kind of tell us just a quick summary about what your roles and responsibilities are right now?
Absolutely. So right now I am sitting in the position of senior listed leader for ACC headquarters A3C division, which that is the Command and Control Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance division. So my job entails basically advocating a lot of things that the lower tier, when it comes to lower tier, I'm talking about wings and squadrons and are asking for and go and advocate for them to get money, of course, but most importantly, manpower and personnel to get people in the right positions. We talk about in the Air Force, and sometimes ad nauseum, we talk about deliberately developing our airmen, right? Big A, small a, all of it. I know the officer corps and you and Shooter, I know you guys do a very good job of doing that. But I would tell you the enlisted is lagging behind when it came to that. We talk a lot about it, and we talk about dream sheets and all that stuff. And I'm a big advocate of putting guys and gals where they need to be to professionally develop. Because if you don't challenge them, it will never change them. It will never change them. If you don't challenge them, it will never change them, right? I've been challenged throughout my career. And the people have put me in positions that I'm like, quite frankly, like, why did you put me here? And then I realized there's down the line, it has absolutely grown me into the Chief Master Sergeant that I am today, the man that I am today, the husband, the father, and everything else in between. So anyway, my job is to kind of message that to airmen and kind of get out of that way of thinking of like, hey, man, I know it's Germany. I know it's Hawaii. I know it's all these cool places that people want to go, but I'm going to need you to go to the desert. I'm going to need you to go to Korea. I'm going to need you to go to somewhere that probably not the most popular destination to go, but I wanted one of my famous line from A Few Good Men, right? I want you on that wall. I need you on that wall. So I try to relay that message to our airmen to kind of get out of that way of thinking of like, hey, I understand that, but I need you. The Air Force needs you here, and most importantly, here's why I need you here. Because in the end of the day, you might hate it, but you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to look back. Hopefully, you look back on your life and you say, man, I'm glad the chief put me in that position. He had this conversation with me because now I have a different perspective of going to this base instead of going to Italy or Hawaii or whatever it may be, one of those nice places that everybody wants to go, right? Like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I wanted to go to all those places, but when people put me in places I didn't want to go, one of my, I was like, wow, that really taught me a lot. So yeah, so that's my job, to kind of have a lot of conversations with people, have a lot of conversations with general officers and SCSs and my boss, my 06 boss, just to talk about, how do we move the ball forward in my career field and advocate for people that don't have the stripes that I have, right? One quick note before we move on. One of my mentors said, hey, what good are those stripes if you're not using them for the good of the other people that don't have the stripes? So my job is to make sure that I don't get too big headed when it comes to people calling me chief. I don't get too high on my horse to realize, like, hey, I know where I come from. Like you, shooter, you were enlisted Marine, enlisted Airman, and now you're an officer in 05 in the United States Air Force. So I never forget where I come from.
That's right.
Because I want to pass on the torch, because one day I will take this off and I want to just say, hey, my job is done, so understand. So that's what I do at A3C, and try to be a more personable chief. Because I would tell you, back in the days, in my opinion, chiefs weren't personable. They were more like, black and white. And I think chiefs need to be more personal, because it's a different generation that you lead. And you can't be like, well, in my generation, so you're already messed up right now because you have a closed mind. You got to move forward, man. You got to go forward. Understand. Not everybody's the same, right? So we got to move forward. So absolutely.
We could almost end the podcast right there. Like that was, that is a lot to talk about right there. You hit some really, really heavy points. Honestly, one of the things that I wrote down while you were talking was, if you don't challenge them, it will never change them. Like, you just have to meditate on that for a second. Like, if you don't challenge them, it'll never change them. Like, that is huge. And I had an opportunity to kind of do a similar job and had been a functional manager for the cyber officers while I was there at ACC as well. And, talent management is important, and you're trying to put people in the right place at the right time for the right mission and so on and so forth. And there's that people aspect to it. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your people. And then, ACC has that motto. We talk about this all the time. People first, mission always. And there's always that constant battle, which was the most important. And, that's a whole podcast for a whole nother day. But, ultimately, I think if you can exercise that talent management and you can get it right, it's going to benefit the person. It's going to benefit the Air Force. And I just the fact that you're using your stripes to help those other people that don't have as many stripes, to me, that's a freaking amazing thing. That's huge. And so if you don't stretch people, they'll never grow, right? And that's what you're doing. And so that brings us, which is a perfect segue to our topic. Sometimes you have to do some things you don't want to do to get where you want to be. Sometimes you have to be in some places you don't want to be to get to where you ultimately want to be. And so that's the whole subject of this big fish, little pond topic today. I've talked to my wife about it a lot, and I just started putting all these things together. And from my perspective, there's four different scenarios when it comes to this big fish, little pond. You could be a big fish in a little pond, and I'll let people think about that for a minute. You can be a little fish in a little pond. You can be a big fish in a big pond, or you can be a little fish in a big pond. And that pond, P-O-N-D, is symbolic to whatever scenario or situation you may be in. That fish, whether big or small, is you being that person. So from your perspective, and with all the experience that you have, when you hear the phrase big fish, little pond, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that means there's this person, or that are, let's say for analogies, argument's sake, there's a big man on campus, right? But this campus is a small campus, right? This person is the most popular, everybody comes to him or her for advice. Everybody knows them by name. Everybody thinks that they know it all, and so on and so forth. In this little pond, and so everybody looks up to this person. Everybody thinks this person is for lack of better terms, the king of the hill, or the queen of the hill, whatever it may be. And so that analogy comes to me when it comes to that person, when it comes to that big fish in little pond analogy, especially those folks that have experienced that in small towns, that grew up in small towns, right? So
I like that.
That comes to me.
I like that. You have maybe a smaller scope of responsibility, but you're the big man or big woman on campus in that smaller scope of responsibility.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you breaking that down because, again, we got three more to dissect. So hopefully that paints a really clear picture for everyone of what it means when you hear big fish in a little pond. So from your perspective, what does it mean when you hear little fish in a little pond?
I think that's just like for me, it's little fish in little pond. It's just like a bunch of folks that are in, let's say, for instance, the same in a small town, but you're basically part of this day going by, right? Like they are little, they don't have any authority or anything like that. However, they are part of this community. They don't have any authority. They don't have any kind of expertise. However, they are this little fish in a little pond, like worker bees, almost like, right. So all of them are doing their job and so on and so forth. But they're just together. But there's nobody authority. But they're the little fish in little pond. So they learn from each other as far as what skill set to go or whatever. There's no authority figure over them when it comes to little fish in little pond.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that. I like that explanation. So we got the big fish in a little pond. You know, you're the big man or big woman on campus. A little smaller level of responsibility. Little fish in a little pond. Same small level of responsibility, but within that small level of responsibility, you're like the worker bee within that little pond. So that takes us to our third one: a big fish in a big pond. What does that mean when you hear that?
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So, and for our folks that are military, I'm going to use a military analogy. So, you know, being a chief master sergeant in the United States Air Force and being in big wigs, being around my fellow chiefs and so on and so forth, we collaborate a lot. Especially here on ACC and in my career field, we collaborate a lot. So we are big fishes in this big pond that we're trying to get forth. So we basically, when it comes to almost analogy, iron sharpens iron, right? So we get together as big wigs around the round table and try to figure out how to move, whether our career field or how to move certain things the Air Force has implemented forward and how to get to the right size of what we're going to look like in the future, right? Because in the future, I won't be here, but we need to lay the foundation for other airmen that are coming behind us. So when I think about big fish and big pond, that's myself and my fellow colleagues that are that basically sit around a round table and talk about what we need to do in essence to move the Air Force and move our career fields forward and move other things and other things that we want to advocate for in the Air Force.
So currently, what I'm hearing is that you're in the position right now. You're in a position where you're the big fish in the big pond as it currently stands today.
That's correct. Yes, absolutely.
Got it. Okay. Absolutely. I like that. And with the last one then to help us get educated on from your perspective, when you hear a little fish in a big pond, what does little fish in a big pond mean to you when you hear it?
It's so funny that you and I talked about this right before we got on air or whatever. For me, my Pentagon experience is a little fish in a big pond. If anybody have ever experienced a Pentagon, oh my goodness, it is amazing, a monster in itself. And I felt like being there, I'm a little fish in a big pond because the Pentagon is so huge. There's so many people in the Pentagon, so many different branches, so many different civilian agencies. And that's how I felt with little fish in a little pond. I just felt like I just going to sit here and try to figure out how this giant works. But at the same time, how to learn from certain things. Because at the end of the day, as much as the Pentagon was a challenging assignment, it still allowed me, being the little fish in a big pond, allow me to understand how the machine works, right? Mm. And how the machine works and how we get to money and how we get personnel. All of that stuff happens in the Pentagon when it comes to the Department of Defense. My experience at the Pentagon, being the little fish in a big pond, for anybody that ever had experience working in the Pentagon, it is absolutely an experience. I'll put it that way, experience, because you are the little fish in the big pond. You talk a lot of general officers. You talk to a lot of SCSs. You talk to and figure out how this machine in itself works, because the machine is a big machine, and you're in a big pond, and there's a lot of players in this big pond, and you are probably not the big fish at all. So unless you are a 3-star and above or SCS and above, you're probably not. You're probably not a big fish. So you are definitely a little fish trying to learn what's going on in this big pond. And so that's how I felt when it comes to little fish in the big pond when I worked at the Pentagon. Absolutely.
You described that perfectly. You know, I was so happy and excited to pin on Lieutenant Colonel. And I was like, I'm about to be a Lieutenant Colonel, you know, and stuff like that. And then I get assigned to the Pentagon and I'm like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? There's Lieutenant Colonels everywhere. I was everywhere. Like, there's colonels everywhere. There's 1-stars everywhere. When I see 1-stars running all around, I'm like, man, what am I going to be doing? You know, so I was like, So
Absolutely.
that is the perfect explanation. I am in a position right now. You talked about your position. You're in a big fish in a big pond right now. I feel that I am a little fish in a big pond, for the time being. But I'm just running around trying not to get snatched up by a hook at this point. so ultimately, right now, you're a big fish in a big pond. Have you seen yourself on those four scenarios that we just described? Have you seen yourself in all of those positions? I know you said the Pentagon, you were the little fish in a big pond. Right now, you're the big fish in a big pond. So you've already explained, like, you've been in those two of those. Have you seen yourself in the other two, a big fish in a little pond and a little fish in a little pond?
So the first two, I've seen myself, the big fish in a little pond. I see myself in a big fish in a little pond in one of my assignments, just because I was the squadron SEL, and my boss basically leaned on me for all issues when it came to, we had a small squadron, a very small squadron. So everything was when it comes to enlisted matters, even we didn't have that many officers as well, right? So a lot of things funneled through me because I was the big fish in the little pond, and he was busy doing a lot of other stuff. So he leaned on me to do a lot of things. So I found myself being basically the big fish in the little pond when it comes to that assignment, for sure. Absolutely. I was the big man on campus per se.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I understand my responsibilities were to make sure I don't get my head too big. But it allowed me to grow up as well, being a big fish in the little pond, actually understanding people come from all walks of life, and understanding, like, they're part of this machine we call the Air Force, but how do I intentionally develop them, and how do I intentionally grow them in being this big fish, and then being in this little pond as well, right? Because sometimes we can be like race horses, right? In that scenario, we can have our blinders on and forget there's a view that we have to actually expand our horizons a little bit. So I found myself, as far as little fish in little pond, I actually did when I was first in the Air Force. I found myself in a very scenario like that, being a little fish in a little pond, right? My first duty assignment basically was a small assignment as well, right? So I was a little fish along with a bunch of young little airmen running around too.
Yep.
And we were trying to find our way and trying to figure out, hey, you go here and you go here. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And that's all we did, right? So there was no growth and development. We were just worker bees per se. And at the end of the day, so I found myself in all four of those stages in my career. Absolutely, I did.
I hear a lot of senior leaders from time to time. I've had it told to me. I sometimes say it to other people, and they go, if I could, these are senior leaders. They've made it, right? They've made it, and they go, man, if I could switch places with you, I would love to go back and be a blah blah blah, or I would love to go back and be a lieutenant, or I would love to go back and be a captain, or I'd love to go back and be an airman first class. That kind of thing. They say that. I wonder, do they mean it? They probably do, but I think they are probably reminiscent on maybe how much simpler life was, at some of those other stages. But having been through all four of those phases that you just explained, which one do you think you enjoyed the most?
Wow. Cool. That's a great question. You know what? Honestly, Shooter, I think the one I enjoy the most is the big fish and big pond right now. Honestly, here's why. Because I have a responsibility right now to influence people, my peers, and then in turn, it goes down and influence people that are lower tier than us, right? And I don't let that get to my head. I know that the responsibility lies with me. I don't take that for granted. I take that as a responsibility, right? Spider-Man quote, right? With great powers comes great responsibility. Mm-hmm. So I take that to heart. I don't take that as, I made it and let that stuff go to my head. I was like, okay, I've made it. How do I make a difference for the folks that are coming after me? And how do I not mess this up for the folks that when I was a young airman that didn't do what they supposed to do? Not throwing shade, but being reality wise, there was people that in the Air Force that didn't do what they supposed to do. They were enamored with the rank and didn't want to take on the responsibilities, right? I found in my career and found that throughout my career, there were people who were more enamored being called X than actually what the responsibility entails with that rank. And so I found myself being the big fish in the big pond, especially here at ACC, because a lot of people talk about ACC like it's almost like the devil. And I'm like, actually, it's not. It's actually the biggest MAGCOM, and there's a lot of responsibility that flies through ACC that people think ACC is just monolith. Like, hey, I talked to ACC. Okay, hold on, man. ACC has a lot of divisions, and there's a lot of people that makes a lot of decisions in ACC.
Right.
And there's a lot of responsibilities in ACC. Like, I'm not the guy that when you say you need it, like, for instance, I need a cyber comm. I'm like, I'm not a cyber guy, but I can point you in that direction of a cyber guy, a cyber chief that I know. And so I think for me, being a big fish in a big pond, I like this more because I understand, like, growing through those stages that I was in, I understand the influence that I have on my career field, on the Air Force, on airmen who was not even my career field. You know, the big thing, like yesterday, I'll be real quick. Yesterday, an airman who was trying to go to OTS, I had an honor to write him a letter of character, for him to try to get into his OTS selection. And for him just to ask me that question, that means that I'm positively influencing him, right? And, I mentor him. He's not even my career field. He's not even my division. But for him to reach out to me and ask me, and I know him personally, it was an honor to me. So I really like this position of being a big fish in a big pond because there's a responsibility that I don't take for granted.
That's huge. That is huge. I like that a lot, and as you help to educate us on it. And I just feel so good about this topic. It has a strange title, but I just feel good about this topic. But you make me wonder now because, you're at the stage where you're the big fish in a big pond as a chief master sergeant in the United States Air Force. And that is where you stand or swim, so to speak, is like the culmination of some of those other phases that took you to that point to be able to get there. I wonder now, as I think about it, is it progressive? Should it be progressive? Do people bypass the big fish in a little pond, little fish in a little pond, and do they go straight to? Are there people out there that go straight to big fish in a big pond? Should it be progressive, or is it dependent upon the person, dependent upon the fish itself?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's dependent on the person, right? So if you look at all four of them, right? So if you look at the big fish in little pond, like if you look at that scenario, right? What that entails, if you are a person that wants to challenge yourself and grow, I don't feel like you want to stay in that stage of being a big fish in a little pond because what in essence, what are those little fish going to teach the big fish? I don't think they can teach them as much because now you're the big fish, right? You quote unquote know everything or quote unquote are the SME, right? So because you are in your environment, right? Remember, there's an old saying that the Air Force always talks about: get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And that means like that big fish in little pond is comfortable. So is there a growth opportunity for that big fish? I argue to say no. It's probably not an opportunity for that big fish to grow because he or she is surrounded by little fishes, right? So it's almost like you can't tell that big fish what to do because now you're the little fish and this person's the big fish, right? And the same thing with the little fish in the little pond, right? If you're a young airman, you be around your peers that basically like continue to be doers and not not thinkers about what you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Because a lot of times, and you and I are, we're young, realistic guys before, we didn't think about none of that stuff. We were young, we were young and stupid, man. We were doing some crazy things. And we were like, man, you look back at it now, like, what was I thinking? Like, why did I do that? But you think about it, little fish in little pond, that's what they do, right? They don't think about it. They don't think about the future per se. They think about doing. So is there any growth in there? I don't think there's growth in there either because you're still comfortable in your environment. You're still doing stuff, whether it's going to the club or whatever it is doing, your personal life, your professional life. That's what you're doing. When you're a little fish in a big pond, I would tell you, shooter, that's the part when I feel I grew a lot more. Although I didn't like the Pentagon, I was around people that are smart. I was around people that did this a long time and understand how this machine works. I was around people that strategically think how people put their minds together. Like I hated meetings, but I love being in there because you see what these folks think. And you're like, man,
that's right.
Like, that's how they think. Like, this is how this general officer thinks. This is how General so-and-so thinks. This is how this person thinks. Like, and then you kind of understand, like, you could, and for me, I compartmentalize all of that stuff and I could kind of break it down in my mind. And I literally can kind of take that back to young airmen and say, hey, this is why this is not done, man. Let me educate you on the process or whatever. And so that I learned a whole lot being the little fish in little pond because I am around folks that are more than likely smarter than me, has been doing this longer than me. And so I understand, like, in order for me to move forward, I better not be that guy to think, because I mean, to be that guy and not learn from what these leaders are trying to portray and try to say, right? I love being around leaders that are smart because trust me, there's leaders that I'm like, I don't know what this guy or gal is doing, but leaders that are very strategically thinking and have an open mind and want to mentor you as well. Because there's more leaders that want to mentor and listen to folks than not. I've met a lot of them, and I'm grateful to be served for a lot of them as well. So that stage itself taught me a whole lot. And so, and then of course, me being the big fish in the big pond, I took a lot of leadership stuff that I've learned from the little fish in the big pond and basically able. So when I came to the ACC from the Pentagon, this was the only thing that was different was that ACC, in my opinion, was much busier because there was so much going on. But I was already prepared to take this job because I understand how the machine works. I understand what half wants. I understand how half speaks. I understand all of that stuff. So coming here was like, oh, this is what I do. Okay. This is okay. It's faster, but I'm already know what to do and whatever, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the little fish in big pond prepare me to be the big fish in the big pond. So I'm grateful for those stages.
That's huge. That's huge. You know, I'm just smiling because I'm literally just like dissecting this and I'm imagining in my brain, right? And so all the things that you said, and I hear a whole lot of, I think we overuse it, but it's still very powerful. I hear a whole lot of bloom where you're planted. And I think that is a very big thing. It's a good opportunity to grow. You might be a little fish in a big pond one day, but guess what? Your fins are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then when you get placed in that big pond and now you're the big fish, you know how to swim. And now you can teach other little fish that might be trying to figure out how to swim along too. And that's, to me, like that's what you're doing. I think that's amazing. And you've been through so many different gamuts of that. And so with that, I'll give you the option. You can choose to take this however you see fit. Each stage, no matter how you look at it, I would imagine, has its pros and cons. You could either do the pros and cons for one. You could do the pros and cons for all. You can do the pros for some and cons for some, or none at all. Based on your experience, if there are some pros and cons that you had to really capitalize on and just kind of share with us today of each stage, what would those be? What would those pros and cons be that stand out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a thinking question. So that's very good, right? So if you look at the big fish in a little pond, the pros and cons for me, for one of the pro, it's like you're the person, right? You're the person. You're the subject matter expert. So you know exactly what's going on within that organization, within certain things, within your small preview of your sphere of influence, as they say. But the con is actually, you might not understand, like once again, you have those blinders on. So there's a bigger picture to be seen, right? So you get comfortable, right? Comfortable doing things. And when people get comfortable, human nature is we get lazy when we become comfortable, right? And the worst thing you want to do as a leader and as a person in a big fish, and in this scenario, is that you want to be comfortable, because once you get comfortable, you stop growing. And the one thing, when you stop growing, I tell my kids this all the time, when you stop growing, man, you got to reevaluate yourself. And then I'm not talking about growing like inches. I want to be Michael Jordan 6'6" or whatever, right? You want to growing as a human being, growing as a man, as a woman, growing as a leader, as a husband, as a wife, as a whatever it is, right? Growing. So that's the pro and the con of that, of course. Little fish in little pond. The pro for that is that you conjure and you develop a lot of good relationships with your fellow colleagues when you're a little fish in a little pond, right? You guys are on the same playing level. You guys develop like almost like a family atmosphere. People probably back in my past still talk to me. Remember when you this, that, and the other? And if I insist for a joke, remember when you had hair? Yeah, man, I remember when I had hair. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Remember when you did this, that, and the other? And then talk stories or whatever, which is pretty funny. And it's like, yeah. But the con with that is that you're not around people that are strategically thinking, what are you going to do 5 to 10 years from now? Like, that's the con to that, right? Because when you're around people that are like-minded per se, in that instant, in that scenario, like-minded, you're not growing because you want people to challenge you. Like, hey, what do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Hey, are you going to school? Hey, are you investing in this? Hey, are you doing this? Hey, the Air Force is offering this for free. Are you taking advantage of that? Those kind of people, when you find in Live Fish and Little Pond, they don't think that way. They really don't. I've been around them, right? They don't. So I had a buddy of mine when I was a little fish in a little pond. I had a buddy of mine. I was an outlier. I said, hey, man, let's go to class together. He never wanted to go to class, and unfortunately, he retired at a rank as an E6. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you don't take certain things in, when you're trying to, those are kind of things. He didn't see the bigger picture. But I for some reason, somebody showed me the big picture. So, and that's, like I said, nothing wrong with that. But, I always tell people, man, like, you can do better. I always want to challenge people. You can do better, man. There's better inside of you. Being the little fish in the big pond, advantages of that, of course, pros of that is basically you're around a lot of smart people, man. You're around a lot of smart people, a lot of people that have a lot of experience. That one thing you can't teach is experience, right? But you can garner from people's experience and kind of learn what not to do or what to do, what probably we can do differently. And that's a big pro for that one, for little fish in big pond. Like I said, the Pentagon is a prime example of that. You come there with an attitude like, hey, I understand, like you said, shooter, like I'm a lieutenant colonel, but there's a lot of lieutenant colonels running around here. But if you have a mindset of saying like, hey, I'm going to learn from a lot of these folks, so when I become a squadron commander, or when I become that, I understand exactly what needs to be done. I know exactly how the half works. I know exactly how the messages to my airmen and all that stuff. So that would be an advantage for you when you become a squadron commander. And then of course the con of it is that sometimes you get lost in the sauce.
Yes,
you really do. It's such a big thing, and such a big place, and such a intimidating place. Like sometimes you can get lost in it if you're not careful and be focused minded on that, being in the Pentagon and being that little fish in a big pond, right? So that's one of the that's the con for it. And then big fish in the big fish in the big pond. The pros of that is that you. Like Proverbs 27:7. I'm gonna go scripture on you.
Let's go.
Iron sharpens iron, man. Iron sharpens iron. You sharpen iron when you're around big fish in big pond, right? My pastor told me this one time. He's like, "Hey, you want to be like a chicken, or you want to be like you want to be around chickens, or you want to be around eagles? Because eagles soar, chickens flock together and stay on the ground, right?
Ooh.
And there's another quote by on the internet by Denzel Washington. I love. He's like, if you want to be a millionaire, be around millionaires. If you want to be broke, be around broke people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're around 5 millionaires, you're going to become the 6th millionaire. If you're going to be around 5 broke people, you're going to be the 6th broke person. Wow. So that's just the way it is. So iron sharpens iron, right? So if you be around people, big fish in big pond, and you gather a lot of things from what those folks are at in their lives. I just know this. I love people in general. People are my favorite stuff. That's why I have my master's in organizational leadership.
I love the people. I love the people. Me too.
But all at the same time, if you want to become a smart shooter and want to become the better person, you're going to be finding somebody that's probably smarter than you and be like, hey, man, I'm going to get it from this person, right?
That's right.
Like probably your wife, because I know your wife is smart. Be around her. That's why,
She's way smarter than me.
Right? So we want to be around people that's going to help us to get to either another level or come on their level or be better than we are in our level that we are in right now. So that's why I look at it when it comes to big fish and big pond. But the con to that is sometimes we sometimes get lost in being in the big fish and big pond, that we basically forget that there's other people that need to be developed beneath us too. There's little fishes that need to be developed. So when we understand about being that, we cannot lose sight of those little fish in little pond that we need to understand. We need to go back and grab them and bring them and develop them, right? It's almost like a ladder theory. We need to bring up that ladder. So absolutely.
Man, that's so powerful. That's what. So that's, ladies and gentlemen, for those that may not understand the military, a chief master sergeant in E9 is the highest enlisted rank you can get to. And what a lot of people don't realize is that chiefs, E9s, or whatever branch you're in, whether it's master chief or sergeant majors or whatever, depending on what branch you're in, right? These are the folks that even officers look up to. And I say up to because these senior enlisted leaders, senior enlisted advisors, they are charged with leading, guiding, growing, developing all people. Not just E8, 7, 6, 5, 4, so on and so forth. It's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up, right? So I think it's a key position where they are at to be a big fish in a big pond, because not only are you leading and mentoring downward, laterally, but you're also doing so upward. And so just listening to you talk today is actually helping me, and I hope it helps other people. Because once you get to that point, you can't make E10. There's nothing else to gain from there. So you have no choice but to be who you are. You've already proven yourself to yourself that you are where you're supposed to be. So at that point, what is there to gain other than to gain greater leaders in the United States military or whatever organization that may be? So as you can see, E9s, chiefs, sergeant majors, master chiefs, they are all filled with infinite wisdom. And if you are not attached to the hip of a senior NCO of any sort, or if you're in an organization where you're the brand new manager in a civilian organization and you just got your college degree and you're just like, I'm ready to go lead this organization, but you can't forget about that person that's been at the organization in that company for a very long time that may not have a degree, but they've got all the knowledge and experience. And if you're not tapping into that, there's a problem with that. And again, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to know who they are. And I think that's a very big deal for sure. So having said all that, with all the infinite wisdom that you have, do you have any other information, advice, insight that you want to share with the good people before we get ready to get out of here?
Yeah, so I always like to lead people because, like I mentioned, my because it's not a one size fit all when it comes to leadership. Leadership is such a broad topic, but at the same time, I see there's different styles of leadership, right? But I always challenge people. Like for me, one of my favorite quotes, and it's actually on my. I'm gonna have to get it to you, Shooter. One of my on my personal coin is like hashtag BBE. It just means be better every day.
Ooh, I like that.
Whatever that better means to you, just be better. That's all you need to do. Just be better. You can take whatever that better means to you, whether it's a better father, a better husband, a better airman, a better Marine, a better sailor, a better soldier, a better whatever, a better uncle, a better husband, whatever, wife, whatever it may be, better aunt, whatever it may be, better cousin. Just be better.
That's
it takes nothing for you to be better.
That's right.
Just be better.
That's a really easy advice to hear. And I think that if you absorb it, it can actually make you a better person. I always tell people, a lot of times people say, hey, how you doing? Hey, how are you? And they don't even take the time to actually listen to what the response is. They just keep on moving, right? And so, you mentioned church, at one point, one of our pastors said, don't just ask someone, hey, how you doing? And they go, I'm fine. Now you need to say, no, how are you really doing? And that's when you really figure out how people are really doing. So ultimately, I tell folks all the time, I am better today than I was yesterday, and I hope to be better tomorrow than I am today. And just every day, we strive to be better. My last story that takes about a few seconds. You mentioned iron sharpens iron, which is something that I've lived by for a long time. And I remember helping a senior officer who was senior to me one day with his speech. He wasn't really feeling enthused about a speech he had to give. And ultimately, it was my duty to make sure that he did his best, being better, you just mentioned, in front of a group of people. So I took some time out of my day to make sure that he was going to be doing and looking his best because people will be watching. Once the speech was done, he killed it. He knocked it out. And I came to him and I said, hey, sir, you killed that. He's like, thank you. I appreciate it. I said, too easy, sir. I said, you know what? Iron sharpens iron. And he goes, oh, I like that. I've never heard that before. Where did you get that? And I said, it's this amazing book. I said, you should read it sometime. He's like, oh, okay. What's the name of the book? I said, it's called the Bible. So I will tell you, I have been sharpened. I've been sharpened today listening to you talk. And as always, iron sharpens iron. So I have one more thing for you before I let you go. And it's the same way I end every single episode with a quick 10-question game of what do you prefer? Are you ready?
Absolutely. All
right. Question number 1. Win the lottery or land your dream job?
Oh, man. How much is a lottery?
That's a good question. Let's just call it about $500K.
My dream job.
Okay. All right. Test the waters or dive in the deep end?
Wow. Let's go for dive in the deep end. Let's do it. Come on, let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Number 3, glass half full or glass half empty?
Glass half full.
Number 4, ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup.
Ketchup it is. Number 5, night or morning?
Morning. I'm a morning man.
I love it. Me too. Number 6, passenger or driver?
I got to drive.
Opposite from me. Number 7, city or countryside?
Ooh, both have its advantages. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I'll have to say country.
Okay.
I have to say country.
Okay. Number 8, would you rather lose sleep or skip a meal?
Skip a meal.
Number 9, shopping online or shopping in store?
Oh, shopping online all day, brother. All day.
Number 10, this is probably my favorite out of all the questions this season. Stay at work. Actually, let me back that up. Start work late or leave work early?
Oh man, start work late or leave work early. I'd rather leave work early because then I can spend more time with my family.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Someone gamed the system on one of the previous episodes, and I was not expecting it. He caught me off guard. He said both, and I was like, if you could pull that off, let me know where you work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So listen, Chief, as always, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do on a day to day. I appreciate you for being the big fish in the big pond where you are right now, and guiding and leading other fish along the way, and just developing future leaders. And more importantly, I really thank you for taking some time to spend some time with us here on Sensation Nation. I know you're busy doing what you do in the civilian community, as well as your professional career. So I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for coming on to sharing some of your knowledge.
Hey, shoot, it's been a pleasure, brother. So it's been a long time, man. I've been a fan from afar. When you started this up, man, I was so proud. And when we met in the gym, and I know you were doing all your stuff and getting ready to go to school and all that stuff. So, and now you're at the Pentagon, you're doing your thing. I'm just proud of you, brother. Keep it up, man. You're an inspiration to a lot of folks that are enlisted, a lot of brothers, a lot of people that look up to you, whether you know it or not. There's always somebody watching. Whether it's your kids or your wife or people that are in the Pentagon, regardless, you feel like you're the little fish in the big pond. There's people always watching. So I'm proud of you, brother. Keep doing it. I'll keep watching and keep getting inspired by the leaders that you have on. And it's just an honor to be on here and share my story and share some of my philosophies, and hopefully somebody be inspired to be better than me, right? And be better every day. That's all I want them to do. Be better. Be the best version of yourself. And yeah, anytime, brother. Anytime.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Chief. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Big fish in a big pond. Chief Master Sergeant Rickey Walks. Until next time on Sensation Nation, I'm out.